Hey, it's Steve Oatley with TLG. I want to make a quick video on what you see on your screen. What the heck is a freight broker and how to become one? Unconventional look through one broker's eyes, this guy. And it's brought to you by me. In each slide, you're going to see my phone number and my email here. So you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to give me a call. This is, I guess, a promotional video for my training and consulting and all that stuff. But I'm just going to go over the three types of brokers, how to get set up as a broker, and the obstacles a broker faces. It's going to be a relatively quick video. Um, so, the definition of a broker acts as an intermediary between shippers and receivers, or shippers and carriers, rather. So, a shipper will call a broker and say, hey, listen, I need a carrier for load A going to blah, blah, blah. The broker will do it. Typically, they put a margin on. Speaking from my perspective as a broker, I was a volume broker, so I did things a little bit different. But brokers charge anywhere from 10, well, actually from 8% to 20. Myself, when I was a broker, I was a little bit different, so I charge a much lower percentage for my services fee because I wanted to move more loads, and it worked. So I would end up moving quite a bit of loads, even though I would make less money each time. The carriers got more money, so everyone was happy, and the shipper saved money. So that's essentially what they do. Now, brokers have other functions. They could do freight audits. They could do all sorts of other things. Right now, I'm just covering the basics on it. Um, a lot of people say, what's the difference between a freight broker and a dispatcher? These are again, this is an opinion piece, is what I believe. I am a dispatch service. I also am a freight broker, and I've been a freight broker for years. Brokers are required to carry a surety bond. Now, this is a problem because people think that dispatchers are required to have a bond because they're participating in interstate commerce. I disagree. For now, I think that in the next couple of years, dispatchers, they're going to start cracking down on dispatchers because the way dispatchers get away with it is they say they're a bona fide agent for the carrier with a little power of attorney or something like that. And what that does is it allows them to act on behalf of the carrier. Um, Whereas, the actual definition laid out by MAP 21 was that anybody who profits from interstate commerce has to have a broker bond. For example, if you're a motor carrier and you have a direct shipper that you work with, they give you more freight. You can't just go and give it to an outside carrier who's running on your own authority or under their own authority. What that would require is you to have a freight broker bond. So it's kind of a catch 22 because right now, dispatchers, they're not cracking down on them. I believe they're going to eventually, which is one of the reasons why I ended up getting a bond myself on my dispatching side. But it is what it is. The broker works for the benefit of the broker. And what I mean by that is, yes, the broker is providing a service to the shipper. All in all, they're trying to make as much money as they possibly can. Try to go and get all the shippers that they possibly can. Speaking from my experience as an agent with Landstar, Global Trans, UTI, US Logistics, LDI, and several others in my 10 years of doing this, the big brokers call constantly. Their in-house sales teams call constantly to shippers, and the reason you give all these promises about saving money and doing this and this, yeah, a bigger company may have more buying power, which is another slide here. But what they're doing is oftentimes they're making a 20% profit on a load because because of the name. That was a thing when I was a Landstar agent. I was able to book freight quite often. The only resistance I got was when I was booking freight for our trucks, and I'd call out and try to book loads that way because other brokers hate Landstar for the whole double brokering and all that stuff, which is understandable because Landstar has a bad reputation for doing it. It's one of the reasons I left. But with Landstar, I could call a shipper, and they would know Landstar. They would know the trucks. They would be used to it. But oftentimes, they had already worked with an agent, or they were currently working with an agent. When I was a Global Trans agent years ago, before when I first started Global Trans, they didn't have an in-house sales team. They ended up adding a sales team, and their sales team just called and called and called. Great sales team, obviously, but it became, there's so many brokers out there that more often than not, you have to really sell your service in order to get those customers, and your benefit. The brokers are the ones who benefit. um, and that's contrast from dispatchers, because dispatch, in again my opinion, work for the benefit of the carrier and therefore themselves, meaning the more money the carrier makes, the more money they make, especially if they're on a percentage plan. But the happier that carrier is, the more money they're going to make. Now, it's not the same with a broker, because a broker is literally stuck at how much money they're going to pay via the shipper, because the shipper is ultimately the one who controls the budget for that move. Whereas a dispatcher controls nothing. Essentially, they find the freight for the carrier and they negotiate. Typically, like how we do it when we dispatch, is we negotiate our fee on top of whatever the posted rate is, or whatever the rate that they're offering, as long as it falls in line with like that and stuff like that. Brokers have direct customers. That's something that's different from dispatchers, because dispatchers cannot have any direct customers. So if you see any dispatching ads where they're like, hey, we have a shipper that's doing this, if you ask for their MC number, if they don't have an MC number, they're legally not allowed to have any direct customers. Even on our dispatching side, we don't handle direct freight. We don't do anything like that because it's too convoluted. We don't want to get in the mix of that broker thing, even though we have a broker bond. We have relationships with our carriers, and we also have relationships with our dispatchers, or with our brokers that we work with constantly. So we don't want to ruin that reputation by back solicitation or anything like that. Brokers receive payment from the shipper, they take their cut, and then they pay the carrier directly. Now, obviously, that's pretty self-explanatory. Dispatchers only receive payment from the carrier. If dispatchers receive payment from the broker or the shipper, in my humble opinion, they are acting as a broker and therefore need to have a bond. The only reason why I don't feel they're required to have a bond, although they're going to be, is because they are working on behalf of the carrier. So when you, like, for example, when I book a load for a carrier, I am booking it under their MC number. The only way that a broker knows that I'm not, sitting in the carrier's office, is typically by my email signature and my phone number. When you call the main number there, it'll ring up and say, thank you for calling TLG for posted truck dial 1. But that's a quick abbreviated version of everything. I'm gonna skip around this pretty quick because I don't want to drag on. There's 3 types of brokers, again, my opinion. You have the large brokers like TQL, Landstar, CH Robinson, those guys, the big ones. They have full-time sales departments. Oftentimes those big brokers, Landstar is different because they're built on an agent network, but often like TQL, CH Robinson, some of the other ones, they don't have agents. So they have a full-time sales department that is constantly out there beating up the phones. They have large offices, faster payments, more loads. And I say faster payments because they have more cash flow, and which is this segment too, here, which is higher buying power. They have a full-time claim employees, and I felt that was pretty important to put there, because in my experience as a carrier and as a dispatcher, those big brokers are the ones that if you do have a claim, they don't work with you. They put a hold on all your money and they say, okay, well, let us know when your insurance fixes it. You're screwed until then. You're not getting paid anything. And that kind of sucks, But and then they have fancy logos. I put that just because I needed a 7th thing, and I couldn't really think of much good about carriers. Hold on one second. I saw a truck go by. That was weird. Small brokers are a lot of the guys you see on the forums and stuff like that. They work from home or a small office. They have better relationships with shippers because they're a small company. Oftentimes they have way less customers than those big guys. So they, by default, you have a better relationship with your carriers because you're working with your customers, because you're working on like a more interpersonal communication type system. And that goes again with carriers too, because the carriers that they work with know that they're a good carrier. They know that they're a good shipper, and so they oftentimes are more apt to work with them. Um, and There's personal relationships with, like I said, that kind of falls into the other thing. Um, Oftentimes, small brokers are good at multitasking, and this goes not broker agents, but the independent brokers, the ones that own the small brokerage, because they deal with the accounting, they deal with claims, they deal with the loads, they deal with sales. So you have to be able to multitask appropriately to do it. Um, I find that they're more apt to work with you when problems arise with claims and things like that. They're more apt to um, help you, not cut you off. Like, TQL is one good example. TQL is a good company. We use them a lot. People hate TQL. The only problem I have with TQL is that if you have an insurance claim, they hold all your payments. It doesn't matter if your insurance claim is $200 and you're owed $20,000. They hold that $20,000 until that claim is resolved, which unfortunately could put a company out of business. So with that reason that I say use caution when you're booking loads with TQL. Granted, through my dispatch side, I book probably 40, 50 loads a week with TQL for all the carriers. They're great. They have good loads. The loads typically pay well. I know a lot of people complain about them, say they're cheap and this and that. Well, I haven't experienced that. The only thing I would set caution is be careful about claims, because they'll work with you. We had a carrier that repowered a load. His truck blew an injector. He had to repower the load. He had two loads. It was essentially a power only load with an empty loadout trailer, and then he had a freight load, both through TQL. He talked to the freight guy and said, "Hey, listen, my truck broke down. Can you find someone else to grab this trailer? It's your trailer as well." That guy's, "Yep, let me repower it. I'll find someone for it. We're all good." The loadout trailer broker ended up calling me, getting all ticked off that he wasn't notified. When TQL was notified, they repowered their own trailer, and I figured there was some communication between the two because they picked up their own trailer. Long story short, they ended up filing an insurance claim for repowering, and now they're holding on a $200 trailer. They're holding this guy's $10,000. So what ended up happening to that carrier? He's trying to get his truck fixed while having no cash flow. It's pretty difficult. So that's why I said small brokers are typically, they work better with you. If you do have insurance claims, or you have late deliveries, or truck issues, I find that they work a lot better with you. One of the bad parts about being a small broker is you have less buying power than large brokers. It's self-explanatory. In terms of LTL, an independent guy that works out of his house is not going to get the same pricing at any point as a big broker that's working on like LTL or intermodal or anything like that. You're just not going to get the same pricing. You aren't going to get the same credit limits with shipper or with everybody. So it's obviously less buying power than large brokers. Now, broker agents are independent agents. They work under the authority of either large brokers or small brokers. The benefit is you work from home. You pretty much are doing sales or operations or both with very little back office. You're not dealing with the accounting. You're not dealing with collections typically. One of the caveats of that is you give up a percentage. So if you were making 10% as a small broker on each shipment, typically you're going to make about 60% of that 10% of an agent. That's the average. There's some freight brokerages that'll pay you 80%. There's some that'll pay you 50%. My caution to everyone that's looking at becoming a freight agent for someone, unless the company is huge, don't ever take anything less than 60% for your profit. If it's a really big company, you find that service is going to be super easy to sell because of their presence and how many trucks they have on the road, or social media campaigns, or whatever, however you found them. If you feel that it's going to be a good relationship, don't take anything less than 60%. And that's and also they have tier groups. So there's a lot of groups that start you off at 80%, but then you have to make $100,000 in revenue every quarter in order to keep that 80%. Otherwise you drop down to 70 or 60 or 50 even. Don't do those type of programs either, because they're set up to make you fail and have the broker make a lot more money. That's my opinion on that. I could talk more about it. The thing about being a broker agent is there's little opportunity for you if you don't have your own book of business. And a book of business is customers. So if you don't have the book of business, a a brokerage, whether large or small, isn't going to want to spend the time to help you develop your book of business under their dime when they're paying for training, paying for software, paying for the load boards, and you end up getting negative in your earnings. And it, I speak from experience. It takes a long time to get out of those negative earnings, and that's why also the next step is takes a while to make real money. The majority of these companies will pay on invoicing. So when they receive the carrier paperwork, that's when they'll pay you out, and that's when they'll bill their customer. There's occasional ones that they won't, that they will pay you as soon as the load is marked delivered, and that's great. You have to be cautious about that too, because if you get a claim, you're getting charged back. I guarantee it's in your clause. If they're paying you out before they get the carrier paperwork, there's a clause in there that they could pull all that money back from you. And then I've seen some contracts where they pulled all the money back from you, and even after they receive their money, you no longer get your commission, which is absolutely crazy. The contracts for agents are super long. I've seen them where they're 50 pages long. You have to read that. If you're going to make the agreement to go work for somebody else and make somebody else money, you make sure you read your agreement. That you have a freedom of working anywhere. When I was a global trans agent, I went out to Phoenix to do the training. They sat everyone down and they said, we have an LTL agent that literally lives on the beach. He works a couple hours in his morning. He brings his laptop out and works on the beach booking freight. Now that's probably a true example with that platform that they have, because as many problems as I have with global trans, it was an easy sell to customers. I could walk in with a tablet and close the sale instantly. I mean, it was super easy. I could just adjust the margins to make it so I beat their current pricing, and then I'd inflate the pricing, months down the road. But it was super easy to do it. So I have no doubt that there are people with global trans that are making a boatload of money sitting around just selling the LTL services. I think, in my opinion, how global trans messed up is they ended up building an in-house sales department, a very big in-house sales department. So we ended up competing against our own company when we were going out and selling. And I was a global trans agent for a couple of years, and it started out great and it was easy to sell, and then it became hard because everyone we'd already been contacted from global trans, and that's a lot of the issues that you have. But you have the freedom to work from wherever. You go on vacation, you bring a computer with you. That's what I always do. When I go on vacation to the Jersey Shore with my wife's family, every year I have my laptop. I sit right at the table because I don't really like the beach. I get sunburned, I'm Irish. And I sit there and I work. Answer the phone, book and freight. The benefit for broker agents is there's virtually no out-of-pocket. You don't really have out-of-pocket costs because you're a broker agent. You're not paying for a bond. You're not paying for anything else. That jumps into the next slide where I talk about the broker setup costs. Now, a lot of people say it's super expensive to start a brokerage. No, it's more expensive to start a motor carrier, to operate as a carrier, a hotshot driver, or anything like that. And I'll explain why. The startup costs that you have as a new broker are essentially your incorporation costs. They vary by state. It's probably less than $300 to file your LLC and get your EIN and all that stuff. Now, I put our logo here big because we could do all this stuff for you. If you're interested in us filing for your authority and all that, let us know. We could do it all. FMCSA filing fees, it's $300 for a broker bond if you're moving property, and it's another $300 if you're looking to become a household mover broker, which you're most likely not, so don't even bother with that. So again, if you do it yourself, it's $300 direct to the government. Your BOG 3 is like $35 through the vendor we use. Your UCR is $76, and your SCAT code, I believe, is $82. I think that just went up. SCAT code is optional. You're going to need it, though. A lot of the big shippers require you to have it, so you might as well just get it. As soon as you know what your DOT number is and everything, just order your SCAT code. Your BMC 84 trust or your BMC 85 bond, you only need one of them. A bond is basically an insurance policy. So you pay in. It's all dependent on credit. And the trust is, so basically you'll pay a quarterly amount or a yearly amount for a company to say, okay, well, if something happens, we'll put up $75,000. And it only protects the broker, or it only protects the carrier. and it's a requirement from the FMCSA. A trust means that you actually put up the money, or you have some finance agreement with a bank or a letter of credit or something, and you put up $75,000 that sits in a trust in case you don't pay a carrier that you're supposed to. And then you have your software and factoring costs. I recommend everyone factor if you're a new broker. It doesn't make any sense not to. You don't use a lot of out-of-pocket. The factoring rates for brokers are like 1.5, and so you can easily build that in your profit margins. When you factor as a broker, you're able to offer quick pay to carriers, because one of the biggest dilemmas you're going to have as a new broker is your carriers are going to be like, you're brand new, I'm not working unless you prepay me. But you can say then at this point, well, we partnered with OTR. You can call them and they'll guarantee payment as soon as you pick up. We can advance you 50%. When you deliver, we can do quick pays. We have all these options. The caveat about those options is they charge you 1.5 for factoring it. They also charge you 1.5. And this is just my example of the company we work with, but they'll charge you 1.5 for quick pay, and under any condition. So whether it's a day shipping or a same day quick pay, next day, 5 day, whatever, still the same 1.5. And what you could do is you could say same day factoring for 6%, same day or next day for 4%. And so you're making money off of that as well. And then obviously software. People could say they could use Excel and stuff. You can't manage your business properly without an appropriate software. And again, that's my opinion, and it's not going to change. There's people that use Excel and stuff, and it's fine. There's free softwares out there. Ascend TMS is one of them. I refer Ascend TMS to a lot of people. The only issue that I have now is and I would be curious to see if they ever want to jump in an interview with me where I can interview them. I'd be interested. But they've partnered with C.H. Robinson, so they offer C.H. Robinson loads through the system. So I'm wondering what kind of information they're sharing about shippers to C.H. Robinson, because it's a hosted platform, so all your information is stored on their servers. So if C.H. Robinson is now putting their loads through this software, I'm curious to see what information is being shared, if any. Maybe they're not. But because it's a free TMS, or it starts off as free, and then they have their own version of MacroPoint built in. It's a great software, and I use it to this day for 3 of the companies I manage. But I'm curious as to that. So if Ascend, if you're listening, you want to do an interview so I could post it out, you let me know, bud. All right. But so that's that. So let me go to the next one. The biggest thing about waiting is you have 20 days to go active from the time of filing, and that's 20 business days. Typically, it takes 30 to 40 days for your authority to go active. So if you make all your filings, you file you buy your freight broker bond, and they do the filing for it. It takes a while to go active, and you got to get a little piece of paper from the government that gives you the authority to act as a broker. It's not just the day you see it says it's approved that you can act. You got to wait for that piece of paper. You could pay a service like mine, $50, and we'll go get that piece of paper for you the same day it's issued. I got to speed up. I'm actually having surgery here in a little bit, and this video is taking a while. This is, again, my opinion. What do you work on while you wait? Customers, obviously. You want to prospect new clients. You want to get those new clients set up. So if you're working with factoring, you want to get your new customers credit approved, which is the 4th step. And you want to create your list. Now, this whole thing is just over. So you want to create lists. You want to prospect. You want to get the new clients set up. You want to get them approved. And then you want to go back and go off your list again and keep going and going and going. Now, if you're an independent guy working from home, 5-6 customers is the max I'd say start off with, if they're active shippers, shipping every day or a couple of times a week. But that's the most that I'd work with to start, because you'll get too big too quick and you'll fail. Your office setup, it's pretty self-explanatory. There's a million videos and conversations of what you need. You need a computer. I wrote with multiple screens, because if you're running multiple load boards and emails and phone systems and everything through your computer, I run 3 monitors here, and it's a super huge benefit to me doing my job properly. You need a great phone plan with dedicated lines. Now, there's Ring Central, which is a virtual phone system, which is good. It's affordable. It's cheap. You can get it a little bit cheaper if you sign like a year contract, but it's month to month. We use Vonage now, Vonage Business. It's great software. It's much cheaper than anybody else. There's Nextiva, which is another good one. Vonage allows you to text. Ring Central allows you to text. It's built in. It's a native client that's built into the system, so you can text your drivers and everything, your carriers, your customers, whoever. I do not believe Nextiva does. Through their system, there's add-ins where you can do it. Um, you need a fax machine or e-fax. Now, a lot of your phone systems will have those built in. And the reason I said that is no matter what, I don't care if it's 10 years from now, you're still going to run into the one guy that wants you to fax him a packet, or the one carrier that wants you to fax him something he doesn't understand email. And so it makes sense to either have an e-fax or a fax machine. A printer, scanner, and copier, self-explanatory. You got to print stuff, you got to scan stuff, you have to copy it, and that's a necessity. You definitely need to have a scanner and a printer. And a pad and paper, and I should have wrote pads and pads of paper instead of pad and paper. I was doing this late last night. At any rate, you need a lot of papers. I'm one of those guys that takes notes. I'd show you my desk right now, but it's super dirty because, like I said, I got a bunch of stuff. The only thing that's cool is I got cookies on my desk, which you see right here because I like cookies. But that's I take notes on everything. If I talk to a shipper, I have notes. I also use a CRM. So at night, what I do is I go in and I write all my notes into the individual file for that person. So by the time they call, I know exactly who it is because I've talked to him 15 times through my notes. Meaning I see my note and I'm like, okay, I got to call this guy. I make my little note online, something pops up, and so they're fresh in my head. That's my recommendation. Always use the CRM. A lot of the softwares have CRMs built in. I'm a big proponent of Zoho's system. They have an accounting system that's on point. They have their CRM system, which if you pay an extra $20 a month or something like that, you get marketing and sales tools and everything built in. I have no relationship with Zoho. I'm not a referral agent. I don't get anything. It's just a software that I think is much better than some of the alternatives. And it's so much cheaper than Salesforce. Salesforce is like the gem of everything, and it works perfect. But it's much cheaper. The mental health portion of being a broker. Now, this is pretty important, I think. I always take a deep breath. If you're dealing with a bunch of loads, you post a load from California to Jersey. As soon as you post that load, you're gonna have 500 callers, 500 people calling you. The biggest thing is just make sure you take a breath and do it. You don't want to get yourself too deep and not be able to do your job properly. I have to take this call. Well, I'm going to refuse it. I should have took that call. But you got to talk through work challenges. And I wrote talk through work challenges, but I didn't say with who. My recommendation is if you're married, you talk to your wife about it. She's not going to, or your husband, they're not going to understand the challenges that you face because they don't work in the industry. My wife's a teacher. She knows that I work in logistics. If you asked her today what I do, I've been with her for 10 years. If you asked her today what I do, she would have no idea whatsoever. Hold on, you're going to get to hear a call. Hello. Yeah, this is. Hey, so the driver said he called you yesterday. He was delayed because of he couldn't find the address for his delivery. What? He didn't call us. Oh, he called the shipper. He said he called you guys. I asked him specifically at 9:30 last night.
I specifically asked him if he called JB Hunt or a shipper, and he said no. I called the shipper.
Okay, yeah. When I talked to him last night at 9:30, he said he called you guys direct, so I apologize for that.
He did. So we're not looking to make the 60.
We are picking up the load. He's delivering right now in Milwaukee, and then he's heading right there. So, I mean, we'll try for the 6 p.m., but most likely it'd be Friday morning.
So we're not gonna. If you not guys miss that delivery, I'm not saying him drive. I'm saying not seeing any type of layover. If he gets stuck there, that's his fault.
He's from San Antonio. I completely agree with you. So,
from San Antonio?
Yep, he's from San Antonio.
Okay.
So
what time you said he'll be there by noon?
He's getting offloaded now when I talked to him this morning, so he should be. He's 74 miles away. So he's probably offloaded now. So, yeah, he should be there within the next hour and a half, 2 hours.
Okay, please let us know.
I'm having surgery at 10:30. Yeah, I'm having surgery at 10:30, but I'll be able to email. It's on my mouth, so I'm not going to be able to talk. But I'll email you guys as soon as he confirms he's loaded. All right. Yep. All right. Bye. All right. So that's how you deal with a customer when they call. Blah, blah, blah. All right. So again, you want to talk through the work challenges that you have, and talk to your wife or husband. They're not going to understand. My wife, it's been 10 years. She has no idea what I do in logistics. She just knows that I make enough money to pay the bills and buy stuff when we need it. Uh, she has no other idea. No other idea. She doesn't know what a broker is. I could ask her today what a freight broker is. She would have no idea. She doesn't know about. All she knows is she doesn't like that I own trucks, and she's never liked that I own trucks or have overhead. But that's whatever. And then this is something that I forget a lot: is don't forget to eat. A lot of times you'll sit down, you'll eat breakfast, you'll sit down at your computer. At 7 o'clock in the morning, you'll get rolling. You'll be listening to music. You'll be working, having news on, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, your wife and kids get home. It's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. You're like, oh, I'm starving. That's unhealthy. Make sure you eat your lunch. That could just be a me thing. I don't know, but just make sure you eat your lunch. This is a quote that I think is funny, and a lot of people are going to not like it because it's Trump, but I don't care. As long as you're going to be thinking anyway, think big. That's my and I kind of live this way. You know, if I think about random stuff, or if I think about ways to make money in this industry, I'm gonna think about the biggest way that I can make the most amount of money. I say people are gonna laugh on it because he's Trump and whatever, President Trump. Whatever. He's yeah. I'm not getting into politics. I like him. He's a good guy. But yeah. So skip to the next one. When it's go time, so your authority's active, you're ready to go, you get those loads moving. So you all the shippers and everything that you talked to in the beginning, while you're waiting, they should have sent you loads, and you give them a call that morning. You say, hey man, it's Joe Smo's brokerage, and I'm ready to go. Authority's active. Let's get this going, and you book them. Be prepared for rejections from both shippers and carriers. And I say that because you're going to have carriers that call on the load, check you. You're a new broker. They're not going to work with you. You're going to have rejections from shippers. You're probably going to call 100 shippers just to get 2 on the phone, one of which may listen to you and give you work. And that's to be honest. Remember your minimum margin. So we didn't talk about this much. I'm really trying to speed up because this has been a 30-minute video, which is a lot longer than I like to have them. Remember your minimum margin. If you say, okay, I want to make 10%, then you make 10% and make that your minimum. You don't book a load for under 10%. Because occasionally you're going to have to take losses on loads and stuff when stuff happens. And so you want that built up in there. You build, nurture, and you maintain your relationships with your customers and your carriers. You find a good carrier that, you want them on your side. You want them to call you when they have a truck available. You want them to say, oh, Joe Schmo's brokerage just called me. I'm going to make a truck available for him. And so, and the same goes with shippers. You want them to rely on you just as much as you rely on them. And then keep prospecting. Prospecting is very important. Now, this is the last page here, is things that we do at TLG that can help you do this. So this was a big video full of a bunch of information. I hope you guys learned something. For our training programs, we have sales and prospecting programs, industries and marketing. So if you have worked in hardwood and you want to start shipping appliances, we could give you leads and tell you more about the industry, depending on what it is, to help you do that. Social media, we'll train you on advertising on social media, recruiting new carriers, recruiting everything. We could help you build a carrier qualification program, give you guidelines on what you should work with and stuff like that. We can teach you how to do freight audits and answer requests for quotes or proposals. Software demos, we could teach you software. We work with so many different software companies, we can help you. And then there's so much more. The filings, we can do all your filings. I think for the FMCSA BOC 3 and UCR, we charge $4.99. $7.99 gets you every single filing you could possibly need as a broker, plus a free website, referrals to all sorts of other stuff. We do referrals to factoring companies, bonding companies, software companies. Pretty much all these we make money off of when we refer. So we try, but I've spent a lot of time in this industry, and I try to pick the best companies that I feel that will do the best. They're not the cheapest, and I'll be honest, and I'm not getting rich off all of them. But it's companies that I built a relationship with, and I trust, and I refer them to people for that reason. It's your option if you choose a 4% factoring versus a 1.5% factoring. But the reason you do that is based on the customer and the reasons that you hear about them and stuff like that. Our consulting side, like I said, we do website design, sales and prospecting. We'll, again, teach you how to do it, but we also can provide lists and do your sales and prospecting in-house. meaning we can qualify customers and shippers and stuff, send them to you to actually close on and contact. We won't contact them on your behalf. We're not a sales call center, but we could just help you with your sales and prospecting. Software selection, like I said, we work with a bunch of different software, so we could integrate it. We could fly out, teach you the new software. We could do a bunch of different things. Carrier onboarding, we are a channel partner with Enlistix, which is a carrier, like an owner-operator software. So hopefully down the line, we're going to work on a carrier onboarding agreement with them, but we could also build you one. I have IT guys that work with me and contract with me. So we could build you your own version of that on board, a truck stop on board, or all those companies that charge you a crap ton of money to onboard. We could do that for you. Compliance and risk management. We could do employee handbooks. Pretty much we can do anything that you would need a consulting company or training company or filing company to do. Literally anything you could ask for, we could help you do. And so that's it. That's the last video. So I'm just going to go back to this first one because it's better than having a black screen. So listen, my phone number is right here. Right here. If you have any questions, give me a call. My email's here. Feel free to send me an email. I don't really, besides these videos, I don't give advice for free, full disclaimer. Talk with you for a little bit, but then I'm going to look for a payment or you to sign a consulting contract. You want to build a blog, or you want to have an hour just to speak to me and figure out, what you want to do, whether you want to start a brokerage truck, be a broker agent. It's perfectly fine. It's high. I charge $150 an hour. I've been doing this for a long time. I get a lot of customers. You may have a couple of weeks to wait before I could fit in time, but I'll get you in there. This is what I do for a living. I love it, and I hope to see everybody that's thinking about entering the industry do it, but do it right. Sign off. Subscribe below for all my videos. Tomorrow's video, if I could talk, like I said, I'm having a surgery. If I could talk, tomorrow's video is going to be what the heck is a motor carrier. We'll make that, and we'll make it a nice, funny video, or funny thing. I made a video yesterday, but I like the format of this one. So, yeah, make sure you subscribe down below. Okay, guys? See ya.